Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours,
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of August 28th, 2023.
Welcome to episode 222 of All That Jam. We're really excited that you're here with us today. I'm Kevin.
Hey, this is Amanda.
And you are listening to the All That Jam weekly wrap-up, a lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands. This week it is all Dicks, Dicks, Dicks as Phish invades Colorado, and we bring year one of this organization to a close. We spoke to Jared Cohen from Baked Shrimp and Dwayne Betts last week. Make sure to look for those shorts dropping soon. This week we have the top three stories coming up and our interview with Jake Eckert from the New Orleans Suspects. We talked their origins, the Radiators choosing songs, plus a tribute to founding members who have retired, Reggie Scanlan and Mean Willie Green. Amanda, you got to start Labor Day week off right.
Oh my gosh, Kevin, I feel like Denver is just literally overflowing with musical talent right now, even more than normal. Yeah, so I was really lucky, got to see some shows this past weekend, and all of them featured some connection to All That Jam. Got to see Surprise Chef at the Marquee in Denver, sold out, packed, so much energy and love for Surprise Chef in their first visit to Denver, them being from Australia. You could see they were just blown away by the response. It was a fantastic show. They're so talented. And then on Saturday night, there was a really great co-bill at Cervantes' other side. Kendall Street Company was the headliner, so got to sell some merch. Actually sold a ton of merch for them. The crowd was loving it. And then they popped up at New Conscious, just like I did, late night. It was basically a Magic Beans themed birthday party featuring pretty much every touring musician that happened to be in Denver, and really fun time. So that was a nice entry into all the fun to come this week.
Fantastic. Now, are some of these people hanging out this week, you think? Are they going to be in town for the whole week?
Looks like it. And, you know, me being me, I have to go online and check tour schedules and see if I can triangulate everyone's location. There were a bunch of guys from Lettuce at New Conscious, either hanging out or playing. They're not on tour again until September 10th, I think. So just that and a bunch of other things. I think there will be a lot of people around. And later, Kevin, I am going to share some information about some of the more exciting late night and kind of Phish adjacent events going on this week too, which are very, very exciting.
There we go. I immersed myself in Derek Trucks sitting in with Phish on Saturday night, and if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. It's amazing stuff. You know, the thing is, Derek, you know, without singing, he doesn't sing. He commands any band that he's in. You put him in there, it becomes his band. Trey was just watching him work, and it opened up all five of the songs they did together to some amazing new directions. I mean, it sounded like the Phish was the Allman Brothers band for a few minutes there. It's just his playing just oozes that something. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but amazing.
Well, good. I'm so glad. And, you know, obviously there's so much buzz. I was watching all of the tweets and everything come through my phone on notifications, but haven't seen any of it yet. And I'm really excited to catch, you know, a little replay.
Yeah. Now, I just heard that Brian McBride from the duo Stars of the Lid had died. He's a very influential ambient musician. Their Instagram said, "I'm deeply saddened to tell everyone that Brian McBride has passed away. I love this guy and he will be missed." He was 53. They said no cause of death. So shout out to his family and his people there. If you've never heard him, if you like the ambient stuff, it was, you know, it's pretty good stuff there. So, and with that, here's Amanda and
the top three stories of the week.
Right. Got some stories this week, scouring the internet to try to find the best for everybody. So I've got a couple of things I wanted to share. Of course, knowing that for so many of us, our thoughts are turned toward Dick's this weekend. But let's get into it. Now, this first story, Kevin, is a follow-up to something we talked about probably a month or two ago, and it's about Floyd Fest, that really great longtime festival that's been held in Virginia since 2002. I actually got to go to years 2 through 6, I think, and loved it. Really great festival. They had a little bit of an issue with permits and had to basically scrap the 2023 festival because the new site that they had found was, quote unquote, not currently viable. It was a permitting issue. And if we want to get really technical, it had to do with some drainage plans. But all that aside, just recently, within the last week or so, the Virginia Department of Health Quality approved some plan, and that was the last big hurdle for the site to clear. So that festival is going to be back. It's just a really great one. The location is gorgeous in the Smoky Mountains. So very excited because the folks that put that one on, really do a good job.
Right. It isn't attached to a specific band like some bands have their festival. This is just a crew that put it on, and
that's right. Yep, exactly. So the producers are Across the Way Productions, Blue Cow Arts, and they've basically developed this site from scratch with the property's owners. So that's one of the reasons why I like this festival. Like you said, it is not always going to feature the same exact lineup. As a matter of fact, for the 23 festival that didn't happen, headliners were going to be the Black Crowes, My Morning Jacket, Sheryl Crow, and Goose was going to be there, which huge names compared to kind of when I remember it getting started. So it's grown, which is pretty awesome to see. So we'll look forward to that one next year. I know everybody's, especially in that area, really excited for that one. The next story that I wanted to get into, something I hadn't heard about, and Kevin, I'm wondering if this had made the rounds. This is something that I think is new. It's the launch of the Bob Dylan Songwriter Fellowship. And I just love things like this, meant to be an annual fellowship. It's going to be a partnership between the Bob Dylan Center, which has artifacts basically curated by, Bob Dylan himself, and then Universal Music Publishing Group. So this inaugural program is going to select 2 new on the scene songwriters that will be chosen by a panel, including, get this, John Mellencamp, Nas. I mean, they really are making this, I think, pretty interesting. And $40,000 is going to be the amount of the fellowship that each of those 2 songwriters receives. So I wanted to mention this. The songwriters who want to be considered for this fellowship need to submit entries by October 18th, 2023. And so, we'll see what comes out of that.
And are they required to come up with something like an album or something, or is it just we're giving you the $40,000 so you can have 6 months to work?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything specific about that. I think that basically the big goal is to connect developing talent, as they call it, with obviously one of the greatest songwriters of all time. So there'll be mentorship, resources, archives, I guess, readily available at the Bob Dylan Center. And they just want to develop a new group of songwriters. So I'm not sure if there's a specific requirement kind of output at the end of that.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to use AI to write a couple songs and submit them.
Why not? Right?
Bad.
Why not?
Bad.
I'll tell you, for the first time ever, one of my most favorite colleagues and I tried a little AI to get started on a presentation, and it was amazing. So anyway, maybe I shouldn't get too far into that, but I was impressed. So we'll follow that, and maybe, also share the link to the Bob Dylan Center that has much more information about the application process. Still plenty of time there. Third story this week, though. So I know that a lot of times, when I'm looking for stories to share every week, I kind of skip over tour announcements or sit-ins just because there's so much of that. But what I want to share for our third story this week caught my eye because I do think it's something different and it's new. Joe Russo, he's assembling an all-star band for what's going to be the first installment of a new concert series. This is going to be in Brooklyn in early October. And actually, the name of the series is dubbed "This is going to be a blast." So the goal is to basically have improvisational shows. So 2 nights of improvised music, and they're going to make this a thing. For this first one, they're going to have, of course, Russo with Marco Benevento, and then Brad Barr and Andrew Barr. Anyone from the Northeast who is at all in the scene in the late 90s, early 2000s will remember them as co-founders of The Slip, one of my most favorite bands of that era. So something to keep an eye on.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm excited. I like the whole improvised thing. Brian Haas talked about that, and going out, and I guess it was Tefra Sound, the one
Yes.
he was in with Helen Gillette and Nikki Gillespie. So that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully they'll stream it or they'll get it out there for us somehow.
I'm sure that they will, because it's going to be really different and fun.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a series too. Maybe it'll
Absolutely.
end up in bigger places. I hear the place is pretty small, like 200
So,
people.
yeah, it is small. And I'd say on Instagram, when this was first posted less than a week ago, immediately Robert Walter and Mark Brownstein got in there, put me in coach. So I think
Right.
this is definitely going to attract some really fantastic talent and just some good, groups of artists that maybe don't get a chance to play together all that often.
Yeah. Very nice. So, our interview this week is Jake Eckert. He's with the New Orleans Suspect. He is all over New Orleans. We've released some, shorts already with him about playing with Colonel Bruce, playing with Little Feat. I mean, he has a pedigree there. And this first clip we're going to get into is about the origins of the band and their connection to one of my favorite bands, the Radiators. So let's check that out, and we'll see you on the other side. Let's go back to the beginning, and it was you and CR.
Yeah, me and CR were always the songwriters in the front, the two singers and the ones that were doing it. The way the Suspects, I'll give you the whole. It's an interesting way it came together. It was never supposed to be what it is, which I think is kind of cool. And I think I kind of have a responsibility to keep it going,
Right.
because every band, I think it was like Glenn Fry or the drummer I remember saying every band's, a day away from being around another 20 years or another 20 minutes,
Right.
no matter what they tell you. So in 2008 or 9, the Neville brothers were kind of morphing towards, or in the Radiators,
Right.
we're kind of morphing towards they were giving smoke signals that they were starting to slow down.
Ed said, I don't want to die with my boots on, is what Ed told me.
And I can talk more about the Radiators as well,
Yeah.
as we did their last album. I
Right.
was involved in their last album here from start to finish.
Oh, cool.
And they're family, and I owe them so much. And so long story short, I was in the Dirty Dozen. And Kevin Harris, the original sax player, was only there for a brief amount of time. He's on the first album. Was the sax player. So it started kind of a different group that Reggie Scanlan had put together and this is how it actually happened. You get 9 versions of this from 9 different people. This is my take on it. There was the Maple Leaf is the neighborhood bar here. I can walk there in a minute and a half from right here. And it's off Oak Street. It has a community. Willie Green from the Neville Brothers lives in the neighborhood. Watkins at the time lived in the neighborhood. Reggie doesn't live far. So we were doing Wednesday nights. It's kind of the night that you can do whatever you want. So when we were off the road, and in the very rare occurrences when we were off the road, Reggie, myself, and Willie, who came to be, there's a little prerequisite to this story too, but I won't start there. When we decided we would play together, it was just 4 of us. And then CR. And we would play Wednesday nights, and we called it, the owner said, is a guy named Hank Staples. And Hank's a character, man. He's one of the real New Orleans characters. He's been there since like since the 70s. You know, he's one of these old warriors that's still around. And he would say, "Hey, Jake, can you put the Usual Suspects together again? We really like that." You know, and I said, "Sure." So he coined it, and he would say, "Yeah, put the Usual Suspects together." And I said, "Well, what should we call it?" And I said, "The Usual Suspects." Great.
Right.
So flash forward, we started playing Wednesday nights. I think we made like $300 or something. It was like, we're just doing it for fun because Willie was in the Neville Brothers. I was in Dirty Dozen. CR was in a band called Out Formation at the time, which was like a widespread. It was Sam Holt's band from Widespread, the guitar tech guy. This is back when Michael Hauser was still alive.
Right.
It was his kind of band, and I believe he's still alive at that time. And so Reggie, we had a Radiator, a Neville brother, a guy from Dirty Dozen. And so these guys are all over the place, and so we land on one platform, right? And we just played New Orleans stuff, and somebody had a tune, we'd throw it out. Nothing in mind other than having some fun.
Right.
We've been playing the same bands for a
Well,
long time.
Reggie and Willie, I remember them from Monkey Ranch in the late
Yes.
90s.
Good call.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And,
That was Monkey Ranch was another band that it was kind of short-lived, but it had many different people.
iterations. Yeah, originally it was Anders and Teresa
I think
with
Tommy
Reggie
Malone was in
and
it,
huh?
maybe. Was Tommy Malone in there at one point?
Yes, Tommy Malone was in there. I
Yeah.
think it was always Tommy and Dave and Reggie.
Right.
And then it was, Anders only did 98.
And when I said there was a prerequisite to the story, is Reggie that said, Reggie and CR said, "Let's get Willie to play drums." And I said, "Oh man, Willie, that'd be wild, Willie's a wild dude." And so that's how that came about. And then I said, guys, I'd really like to get Kevin from Dirty Dozen. I would like to have a sax. So he started coming over. I said, "Hey guys, we did these Wednesday nights." And by the way, Hank would call them Fugitive Wednesdays. He said, "I can put the 5 most wanted FBI names on this bill, and still the FBI won't show up. Nobody comes here on Wednesday night." So he's like, "You can do whatever you want." He's like, "It's your night." And people started coming out. He's like, "Man, you guys got people coming out to see you." So we went in the studio here, and I looked at the original sessions, and it was like March of 2009 or something like that. All these sessions have a date on them when you open them up. And that was when it all started kind of cooking. More people started coming watching us. We put this album out. We were calling it The Usual Suspects because the owner couldn't think of anything better to call us, because that's kind of what he looked at us. The usual guys, man, the neighborhood cats. We got approached by our manager at the time, rest his soul, Barney Kilpatrick. And he said, "Y'all, we need to get this going. Would you guys want to sign a management contract?" And we said, whoa, I'm still in Dirty Dozen. And the Neville Brothers hadn't quite hung it up, and the Radiators were just about. Right. So you're getting all these different bands kind of coming to their,
head for the fruition,
right? Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so we did. And all of a sudden, by the way, the Dirty Dozen was playing more than every other band of these other bands at the time. We were doing like 200 days on the road, And
I remember you
we were still working with Widespread Panic some, and we had put a new album out called 20 Dozen was coming out.
You all would come through Annapolis, play the Ram set. I saw you there.
Right. Yeah. I remember that. The Dirty Dozen just won a Grammy. Congratulations, fellas.
Yes.
So, anyway, immediately it became too much to handle. And I would fly from Dirty Dozen gig to say potentially Annapolis, back to the Dirty Dozen. And the Dirty Dozen, they had to sit down. They said, "Jake, you're going to have to stop doing the Suspects." And I said, "Guys, I think it's time I'm going to actually try something different, because I'm a hired gun here. I'm not one of the originals." But Kevin was not. Right. Kevin was in the band too. Now he's doing both too. And Kevin's into his 70s now, and I said, "Kevin, you got to." He's like, "I want to do both." I said, "Kevin, there's a conflict of interest here." Right. You know what I'm saying? We can't do everything. We love everybody. We love every band, but you can't do everything. You should stay with the Dozen. I'm going to go with the Suspects and everybody's friends. And I did play with, and I kind of played there was a keyboard player that replaced me. I played with him and kind of trained him with the Dozen. As I remember, I got him Kyle Russo at the time. And everybody was cool. And I still work with the Dozen some. I'll go fill in and we still hang out and everything was good. There was never a real weird thing. They've had a lot of people come through their band over the last 45 years, right?
Kevin, I love the New Orleans Suspects. Just so much talent in that band. So this is a great conversation, and there is so much more to come. Before we get back into the interview, though, of course, as always, want to mention and remind everybody that we are online, social media at All That Jam Pod, and then allthatjampod.com as well. And Kevin, I know that you have been digging in a little bit into Blue Sky. I've been enjoying getting to know Threads, and then also on Instagram, I've been really grateful for a lot of support from artists that have been on the show. So always exciting to see that. Kevin, I know that you'll talk about our upcoming content for the week, but also a reminder to everybody to find us, of course, listen. And if you enjoy what you're hearing, leave us a review. We are everywhere you will find podcasts. But let's get back into the interview. Jake was sharing some really good information with us about how he makes some choices about songs, and then just his progression and the progression of the band over time.
So the song selection in the beginning there, you guys are one of the few bands I've ever seen cover Radiator songs.
We did a few Radiators tunes over the years, yeah.
And you had some Little Feat, and how did you had a couple? Did you have originals in the beginning, and how did it progress?
The first album, I had my own album out under my own name at the time. That had just kind of. It took me about 8 years to make this thing because I was always doing, like always. If you get to know me, I'm doing way too many things at one time, and it's my kind of blessing and curse. And we were doing some of my originals in CR. That's when we immediately realized, okay, we write songs. And CR and I immediately had a bit of a unspoken connection. We could sing together. We liked a lot of the same music. We liked enough jazz and enough legit music and enough jam band stuff, enough blues, enough New Orleans stuff that we kind of it just fit, So that's always been there. We still get along for the most part. We don't talk as much as we used to, but when we do, there's just a general unspoken understanding that, we understand each other, and that was there from the beginning. So anyway, that story, we would cover Radiators at the beginning. And then I kind of got to the point personally, I said, let's not do the Radiators. Let's not do it was me and CR that said, and that's always was kind of an issue with that group, with me just speaking transparently. It's like, and Reggie was on the same page. He'd be like, "Now let's get our own voice." You know what I'm saying? And so we did. And as you see, then as the next album came out, well, we did there was a live at the Maple Leaf next, and then the third album was like totally original stuff, and we had done hundreds of gigs at this point, and had a booking agent, had been through a couple booking agents, and Barney, our manager, was just the most dedicated guy in the world. And so anyway, that's the repertoire kind of was pushed to be, if we were going to do covers, let's make them either obscure or like a New Orleans standard. And occasionally we'll sling out a Neville Brothers or and we did we do Dirty Dozen, Neville Brothers, and Radiators. We always sneak in because we knew them. So we're like, I've played that a couple times,
Definitely.
Yeah. So the repertoire kind of morphed from that. And that was kind of as I moved forward with it, I said, everybody would say it's a super group, it's an all-star band. I said, guys, I don't want to really be coined as an all-star band all the time, but it's still to this day, people are like, it's an all-star band because unfortunately, when you've been in an act that's established, right, or whatever you want to call it, everybody wants to always associate with it, which is great. We love where we came from. You can't run from who you are, right?
Right.
So, but songwriting for me, NCR became a very strong point that we needed to, if it's going to continue to do this, we have to make our own voice, and because essentially we're going to be a cover band otherwise. And
Can you talk a little bit about what you feel your progression as a songwriter has been through the
Yeah,
album for the band?
absolutely, you know? You know, when I was in Dirty Dozen, I was still playing a lot of that music, and at that time, you know, which is pushing 15 years ago now, my songwriting is simplified a lot now. I'm much more a fan of the song than I am even my guitar solo or the sax solo. I love a great solo, and I get paid often to go play a solo to melt your face or whatever you want to call it, right? But you all will remember the experience, but you won't remember that solo per se, but you will remember that chorus
The
or
hook.
that verse that stuck with you. And I do realize it's the song that's the foundation. And for me, that's so important where I am now. I almost don't want to do anything unless it incorporates that as new projects and stuff, because that to me, after kind of saying, well, I was the younger guy with this band. Now, you know, flash forward, now I'm not young, depending who you're talking to, but I don't feel it anyway. And, you know, it's very important to me that the song is the foundation. Doesn't have to be too complicated. Doesn't have to have too much going on. As with my early writing, I thought I was writing simply, and somebody would try to learn it. They'd be like, man, this shit is complicated. Now I'm much more concise. Tried to provide a foundation, to tell a story with the lyrics, or give somebody a visual or a situation that they can own as their own, right? They can connect with it in whatever way they want to, and provide the musicians a platform to improvise and stretch out and goes for the stars, right? Goes for the sphere. Not unlike, I'd hate to use the analogy, but the way the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers and shit did way back in the day. The song was just the foundation. Then we launched. I'm not really a fan, and other musicians are different, of just start and we'll see where it goes. I say set the foundation, and then let's, you know, we can break the foundation to the ground and rebuild it if we want, but it has to start with this initial cornerstone. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Oh, right. Oh, that's, you know, I love talking that. I always love the set list question. How do you pick stuff? What covers do you end up with? And it's fascinating to get into their thinking, their process there. Um, I wanted to mention, to throw in with what we were saying about Dix this week, to find us on the lot, because you're gonna, besides stickers, we got something else that you're gonna have for people.
That's right. Yes, I've got many, many copies of the latest Surrender to the Flow, the 2023 Dix issue. It's great, as always, packed with a lot of fantastic content, and we'll have those with me. So hopefully you'll see us. I'm sure, Kevin, I will be hanging with the Wood Plus crew, which is easy to find, right? Because you all always set up in the same spot.
Yeah, hopefully. That's what the plan is. We'll see. We do not have Tim with us this year, and he's kind of like our guiding spirit who got us to all fall in line and do what we were supposed to. So we'll
All
see.
right. We'll work it out.
Right. Speaking of content, we're going to be a little late on content this week, because after Thursday, we're taking off until next Wednesday. Stuff will start appearing again. It's our 1 year anniversary. 9/11 was actually our first episode. So it's kind of like we put in a lot. It'll end up being 224 episodes that we've done in a year, which is just mind boggling to me. But with this short week, we figured we'd throw two great ones out there. Tomorrow, we're going to have Jason Crosby on. He's talking about playing with Jackson Brown. He also played with Jenny Lewis for a while, and we got into how that's different than playing with, say, a Phil Lesh or something, where you're expected to improvise versus you're expected to play the songs. You can catch Jason this fall too, playing with Jackson Brown. On Wednesday, we got Zach Nager on how he built a home studio and how it allowed him to branch out from the work he was doing with the Gray Boy All Stars and get into some solo stuff. So look for that. This last clip we're getting into is Jake, celebrating Reggie Scanlan from the Radiators and Mean Willie Green from the Neville Brothers, who were two of the original members of the band. Mean Willie Green, up in years there, Reggie actually got cancer. He got prostate cancer and beat it. But both of them decided the road was no longer an option. And that's understandable. So let's check that out. And on the other side, we're going to get into all the shows coming up this week at Dick's.
Yeah, when Reggie decided to leave the band, you ended up with Charlie Wooten, and then you ended up with Eric Vogel. When Mean Willie Green left, you ended up with Eddie Christmas. You want to talk a little bit about?
Well, actually, it's if you want the details, like Reggie's doing awesome. He's amazing. One of my most, I admire Reggie more than so many people I've met in my life. And without the inherent willpower and strength as a person, Reggie would not be here. He and Sally, his wife, and what they've, and as you know, Reggie was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer while he was in the Suspects, and while we were on the, I remember the day, and he was one of those scenarios where people said, "Oh, this is not going to end well," and Reggie is just time after time proven everybody wrong, and he's in such good spirits, and he still plays locally all over the place, and he still maintains his sickness on a daily basis, but he's so amazing in his attitude and Sally, and it's just like,
He plays with Low Faber.
yeah, he plays with Low
Sundays.
on Sunday nights, who was just in here yesterday recording.
Nice.
Low was, and
Oh, cool.
Reggie wasn't on it, but Lowe's making an album, and
I love Low. He's
a
great.
really nice guy. We're just starting to. I had not met him much, and Reggie introduced us. We were at Mom's.
I was a God Street wine kid. I used to love them back in the early '90s.
Yeah, it sounds like in the Northeast. I'm a Southern dude, so it sounded like in the North. I wasn't super familiar with him, but he kind of explained it. And super nice guy. So Reggie had gotten sick. It was like, man, we were van road dogging it, hard. Like, we put 200,000 miles on a van, and I'd been riding a tour bus. Willie been riding a tour bus. Reggie been flying everywhere. And we kind of went back to where we started. And, that will beat the living shit out of you.
Right.
Any way you slice it. And Reggie was in his 60s. He was in his 60s at the time. And so really we had like a strange, and we had all these shows booked. We had like a full calendar, So we Dave Parmelo from Johnny Sketch and the Dirty Notes filled in, and Ron Johnson filled in, who's with Samantha Fish now. He was in Carl Denson's band. Lives here now. Charlie Wooten did a chunk. Who else did? And then Eric Vogel. And Eric, I noticed that when I said, there's a guy that can hang, that fits. You can get the best bass player in the world to play with you, but chemistry is hard. You can't create. And Reggie's chemistry was very part of the nucleus of the thing, And so Eric, you got to be a bit of a character to hang out in the Suspects, for better or for worse. And that's where Eric came in, and I bet Eric's really, there was about a year period where I was just referred to where it was like this rotating cast, which was really hard. We didn't know how much longer we could do that. So he said,
I guess it limits the amount of songs you can do, your pool of songs to choose from.
You're kind of just on survival mode. And you see it happen to bands all the time. When I see it, I say, it would be interesting to see how they navigate this, right? Mm-hmm. And that was that. And then so to go down that road, which I'm totally open to talking about, is we've had the Suspects is the day this thing started, which I refer to at Maple Leaf Art, and now it's like I would have never in a million years ever thought it went as far as it did, and had the roller coaster ride that it has presented, and ended up with such a cool frankly, I love the outfit right now, the reinvention of it. It's an extremely strong lineup. Does that make sense? It has this bit of, it's kind of like the new All-Star thing in my eyes.
All right, Kevin, I thought that it would be perfect timing as we're thinking about this upcoming week to talk a little bit about the many different after parties, side hustles, yoga sessions connected to this weekend, which I think just goes to show how special Dick's Weekend is out here and what it has become, which is truly even just beyond Phish itself. That community extends so much farther. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about some of the other events that are happening. And Kevin, I know you saw this, but I was having a little bit of an existential jam band crisis moment of, I love Phish. Obviously, they're the reason why I'm doing any of this at all. But man, there's some good music happening late night and then also around the shows. So let's talk about it a little bit. And I'm actually going to go by venue because I think that that's kind of a cool way to think about it. I'm going to start with New Conscious. For anyone out there that maybe isn't based in Denver or has not heard of New Conscious, you really do need to know about New Conscious. They are basically the official late night venue here in Denver. Incredible space, nonprofit, kind of for and by artists. And they've got a couple late night shows I wanted to talk about. Thursday night, we're going to have DJ Logic and friends. So that's members of Goose. Ben will be there. Eddie Roberts from the New Master Sounds, DJ Logic, of course. And then Nate Edgar will be there as well. That group has actually been playing around quite a bit recently over the last couple of months. So I would say that's one that's going to be pretty tight because they are used to playing together.
Ben is getting all over the place, isn't he?
He is. And actually, I had just seen him in Connecticut for Elephant Proof. And yeah, I mean, he's everywhere. I know that Umphrey's sit-in, from what I've heard, was phenomenal. So very happy he's going to be out here. And who knows, there might be some other things going on simply because Peter and his buddy Ethan from Great Blue have been hanging out. So I would say even keep eyes and ears open for maybe some last minute music there too. And then on September 2nd, Electric Beethoven, also at New Conscious. Kevin, we were chatting. This, of course, features Reed Mathis. And then Brian Haas, who we've talked to of Jacob Fred Jazz Odyssey as well. What a great conversation that was. So very excited to see him. Dave Watts from the Motet will also be a part of Electric Beethoven that night. That is one I will not miss. I don't know about you.
Brian and Reed they grew up together. I think Brian told us he was 19 and Reed was 17 when they started in Jacob Fred. So they just have such a deep dialogue and communication. It's there was a funny story. Remember, he was telling us about some guy who came up to him a couple times and was like, "Oh, I love you guys," and Brian said something about it being Beethoven, like was the songs, and the guy didn't even realize that they were playing Beethoven songs. He just loved the music.
Don't you love that? Like, that is the power of music, I think, is to bring people into a genre that they wouldn't maybe have any exposure to, or at least maybe exposure that's meaningful, right, and identifiable. So I love that. I've thought about that a lot, actually, since we heard it. So that's going to be great. I mean, that would be enough for one city, right, to have all of that talent in town, but I'm not done yet. I wanted to make sure I mentioned some night zero events going on, Kevin, because I know that we're excited about Gorilla Toss at Lost Lake, Denver. That's going to be Wednesday, the 30th. We will be there. I'm really excited to see them. They just bring such an incredibly unique sound to what they do. So really looking forward to that. There will also be another night zero event at Meow Wolf. So that's going to be DJ Brownie. Of course, Mark from the Disco Biscuits will be there. And that's something that he's done out here a couple times at different venues. So if you're into that, that might be something that you want to go to. If you are maybe feeling like you want to do something that is not starting, super late, Meow Wolf is also hosting something called the Flexiverse, Phish-inspired yoga. This is going to be Sunday, 11:30 a.m., and there will be music there. Casual Commander, that's Kevin from Sun Squabby, who gets around here in Denver all the time. It's going to be providing some tunes with a great instructor, Haley Bowden. Definitely would recommend that if you're into that kind of thing. I'm not very flexible, so I will wish everyone well who wants to do that one. And Kevin, I haven't even talked about Cervantes yet. Like, can you believe all of these different events? It's amazing. So Cervantes is going to have its own set of different things going on. Thursday, they are going to have Steely Dead. I've seen them. They're great if that's something that you're into. But that will also feature Drew Sayers from the Motet, Gabriel Mervine, who is a fantastic artist, plays locally, a horn player. That's going to be a really good one. And then we've got some other things. DJ Airwolf, that's a dual venue Phish after party Friday. Of course, we all know who he is, and so he'll be there actually Friday and Saturday night. There's some Magic Beans late night going on Friday. And then Saturday, the Funk Sessions. This is another one I'm going to really try to get to. That's Eric Krasno, Stanton Moore, Will Blades. Oh my goodness, here we go, more and more. And Eric Benny Bloom from Lettuce will be there. I mean, I almost could probably keep talking for another 30 minutes, but I would just say if you're coming into town or you're curious, because a lot of these will be streamed, maybe we could try to put together a little bit of a list that puts all of these events kind of linked in one place.
Right,
Is what
links
I'm
to the websites, all the venues, and then
yeah,
you can just
it's a lot.
find
As
what you
I'm
need.
saying this, I realize I've been, watching these for months, paying attention, but it's a lot to try to figure out where you might want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Gorilla Toss. So excited. We talked to Peter. He was one of the early interviews we had because the backstory was I saw a post on Facebook of Trey with a Gorilla Toss shirt on. So I dug in and found out that apparently he had seen them at some point because they played at Bethel in 22, I guess, before the show. And so I reached out. Peter is ahead. There's some videos on YouTube you can look, some live stuff, and he has a tie-dye with the Steal Your Face on one of them. But just a beautiful person, fantastic conversation we had. So you can find that. And if you are in Colorado, find us on the lot. Check our socials. I'm sure, I'm always very vocal about where I am. And while you're out there, remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll see you in a couple days, Amanda.
Yes, Kevin, I'll see you soon.